So you're thinking about going backpacking alone, all by yourself, in the wilderness, where there are bears and bugs, and you have to carry everything you need on your back, right? No worries, I got you covered. Hey, I'm Kathleen, a day hiker, solo long distance backpacker, backpacking coach for women, and the hungry hiker here on YouTube. If you're a beginner backpacker looking to get into solo backpacking but are feeling a little overwhelmed by all the gear and planning and have no idea where to start, this video is for you. So why go backpacking alone? Think of solo backpacking like dating yourself. There's no drama, no compromises, and you get to pick the snacks. There are so many reasons why I love backpacking alone. It's the freedom to get out on trail without having to wait for someone else to go with me. If I want to go backpacking, I can just go by myself wherever I want, whenever I want, for however long I want. I don't have to waste my time waiting for someone else to go with me. I love backpacking alone because I'm in charge of my trip. I never have to worry about being the slowest person in the group. I get to set my own pace. I can take breaks whenever I want to for however long I want. I can decide where I camp each night. I get to enjoy my backpacking trip the way I want to without having to take into consideration anyone else other than myself. Solo backpacking gives me a chance to truly connect with nature and myself without any distractions like cell and Wi-Fi service or a super chatty hiking partner. Solo backpacking also means having to be 100% self-reliant, and there's a lot of power in that. Knowing I can handle various challenges that may come up throughout my trip while sometimes getting the opportunity to overcome my fears when I'm hiking solo reminds me that I really can do anything I put my mind to, not only when I'm out on trail, but also once I come back home. It's pretty empowering. Being out on trail by myself is a major confidence booster. If solo backpacking were easy, everybody would be doing it. And you probably wouldn't be watching this video right now because you'd be too busy enjoying your me time out on trail by yourself. If you've told any of your friends and family that you've been thinking about going on a solo backpacking trip, you might have heard things like, is backpacking alone safe? Are you crazy? What about animals? What about people? What if you get lost? Are you gonna carry a gun? Totally normal responses. In my own personal experience, if you want to know what someone is afraid of, just tell them you want to go hiking by yourself in the woods for a few days and you'll quickly learn everything that they're afraid of. So is solo backpacking dangerous? Yes, of course it is. But so is crossing the street and driving a car, but we still choose to do these things every single day. Solo backpacking can be dangerous if you don't plan, don't pack the right gear, and have the wrong mindset. As long as you've done the proper trip planning, are prepared with the right gear, practice good judgment, and have confidence in your own skills, solo backpacking can be a safe and incredibly rewarding and life-changing experience. Let's talk about the backpacking gear you actually need in order to have a fun and safe solo trip out in the backcountry, starting with the backpack. Really take the time to find the right backpack that's going to fit your body comfortably, will carry all the gear you'll need, and is designed for the type of trip you want to go on. Having an uncomfortable pack can be the difference between a successful and a miserable trip. Some things to consider when choosing a backpack would be the capacity, volume, and size of the pack, how the pack fits your body, pack features, the types of trips you'll be going on, whether it's for the weekend, a multi-day trip, or a long-distance hike like a section or through hike, the season you'll be hiking in, the amount of time you plan on being out on trail, and the distance you plan on traveling. Most importantly, look for a backpack that fits your body type and can handle carrying all of the gear you plan on bringing comfortably. When it comes to choosing a backpack, you'll want to remember that pack size corresponds to torso length, not height. So make sure you measure your torso correctly in order to choose the right size pack for your body. Outdoor retailers like REI have staff on hand in their stores who can help you measure your torso and guide you with finding the right pack for you. Pack capacity is usually measured in liters, which is often included in the name of the pack. And you never want to carry more than a third of your body weight in your pack. For example, say you weigh 150 pounds, this means you don't want to carry more than 50 pounds in your pack. As a beginner solo backpacker, another important piece of gear you'll need while you're out on trail alone is some sort of shelter system like a tent. Most beginner backpackers will want to have the safety and comfort of some sort of enclosed shelter system like a tent, as opposed to cowboy camping, which means camping outside under the stars without any protection from weather or creepy crawlers. For the record, I've been solo backpacking for over 6 years and I still use a tent for every backpacking trip I go on. I've cowboy camped twice and can honestly say I still prefer the safety and comfort of sleeping inside a tent, especially when I'm out there by myself. Some things to consider when choosing a tent would be, how tall are you? Will it only be you sleeping in your tent, or will you be sharing the tent with another person, a child, a dog? The peak height of a tent, which is the highest point of the tent. Can you sit upright inside the tent comfortably? Weight. How heavy of a tent do you want to carry? Remember, the bigger the tent, the heavier it will be, and the more room inside the tent you have to warm up on those really cold nights. What time of year will you be using your tent? Should you get a 3-season or a 4-season tent? Single wall versus double wall tent? And budget. How much do you want to spend? If you're new on your backpacking journey, I recommend starting with a lightweight double wall 3-season tent. Here's why. Double wall tents are versatile, user-friendly, and a great option for beginner backpackers. With a double wall tent, you have a whole lot more options. You have the option to set up the tent with or without the rainfly. You have the option to be able to set the tent up practically anywhere and on any kind of surface, and they're fairly easy to set up. If you're worried about condensation, double wall tents will be the better option because they're more breathable. In a double wall tent, air flows between the two walls, the tent body and the rainfly, which helps reduce condensation considerably when compared to a single walled tent. Another important piece of gear every beginner backpacker needs is a really good sleep system. A sleep system is everything you'd need to sleep on the cold ground with, which includes an insulated sleeping pad and a sleeping bag or quilt. It's important to note that a sleep system does not generate heat. The goal of a quality sleep system is to trap the warmth your body produces, which will help you stay warm while sleeping on the cold ground. Just as every one of us is a different kind of backpacker, every one of us is a different type of sleeper. Do you sleep cold? Sleep hot? Are you a side sleeper? Do you toss and turn in the middle of the night? The big challenge most backpackers have with finding a sleep system is finding exactly what's going to work for them in order to be able to sleep warm and comfortably outside. Oftentimes, finding the right sleep system takes some time and requires a fair amount of trial and error, which means having to endure a few really cold nights. It honestly took me 2 to 3 years to find the right sleep system for me, and even then, I still made a pretty big change to my sleep system last year that now helps me sleep even more warm and comfortably out on trail. Sorry, I don't have a magic pill or a quick fix formula that's going to help you magically find the perfect sleep system for you. But here are some things to consider as you start the journey of finding your perfect sleep system. Find out what kind of sleeper you are. Are you a cold or warm sleeper? The time of year and climate you'll be backpacking in. Sleeping bag versus quilt. How much insulation or fill do you want your sleeping bag or quilt to have? What kind of insulation do you want? Down versus synthetic insulation? Temperature rating. You'll want to make sure you use a sleeping bag or quilt rated for the season and climate you plan on hiking in. And weight and packability. For sleeping pads, the goal of a sleeping pad is to act as insulation between you and the cold ground. A sleeping pad will help prevent you from losing heat to the cold ground while helping to keep you warm throughout the night. A sleeping pad also acts as a mattress and provides cushion, helping to protect your bones and joints from the hard ground. When it comes to choosing a sleeping pad, you'll want to take into consideration the different types of sleeping pads, like inflated versus non-inflated, where you'll be sleeping, how cold will the overnight temperatures be, how much weight you're willing to carry, how much insulation do you want your sleeping pad to have. This is the R value rating of a sleeping pad. And the size of the sleeping pad, tall versus regular and regular versus wide width. If you want to see the sleep system I use out on trail that helps me sleep warm and comfortably on all of my trips throughout the year, check the description below for a link to my full backpacking gear list, which also includes links to where you can find each of these items online. Something else you don't want to leave home without, especially as a beginner backpacker, is cooking gear and backpacking food. Sure, there's the option to go stoveless and cold soak your food, but this isn't something I'd recommend if you're a new backpacker who's just getting started on your solo backpacking journey. As the Hungry Hiker here on YouTube, I'm a food motivated hiker. I can hike in any terrain, in any kind of weather for as many miles as I need to, knowing that I have yummy snacks I look forward to eating on my breaks and a tasty warm meal I look forward to eating at camp at the end of a hard day. I eat from the heart and I eat whatever food my body and mind crave. That's just how I roll. For each of my trips, I always pack a lightweight stove like the Jetboil Stash. Instead of cooking my meals directly in my pot, I use my stove to boil the water and then cook my meal in a separate bag. This way I don't have to deal with any dirty dishes out on trail. trail. I also use either a DIY backpacking food koozie or this insulated food pouch from Big Sky International. Either one of these will help your meals rehydrate faster while you're out on trail. And my eating utensil of choice is this long-handled spoon from Sea to Summit. And depending on where I'm backpacking, I'll either use an earth sack or hard-sided bear canister to store my food in while I'm on trail and at camp. As for the hiking snacks and backpacking meals themselves, I'll bring everything from my favorite hiking snacks I find in the grocery store to freeze-dried meals I buy from outdoor retailers. This past summer, I got super burnt out on all the store-bought freezer-dried meals, which is pretty much all I ate. This winter, I'm making it a priority to freeze-dry and dehydrate my own backpacking food so that I can save a bit of money and expand my on-trail menu by being able to bring some of my favorite meals I like eating at home with me out on trail. I'm also prone to food fatigue, so being able to expand my on-trail menu with a wide variety of home-cooked meals that only need boiling water to cook is going to be a game changer for me this upcoming warm weather backpacking season. Water is life. No matter where you're at on your backpacking journey, don't drink from random water sources unless you enjoy mystery illnesses. Never leave home without some sort of water filtration system. This includes any type of water filter or purification tablets, water bottles to store your treated water in, and something to store dirty water in if you're not filtering your water directly at the source. Whenever you're spending multiple days out in the backcountry, you'll need to make sure you're also prepared to poop and pee far away from any toilet while you're out on trail. If you're looking for ideas on what to pack in your poop kit, let me show you what I pack in mine. First and foremost, an ultralight trowel, which I use to dig a cat hole 6 to 8 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches wide, 200 feet or 75 adult steps from any water source, campsite, or trail. For peeing, I pack a Kula cloth, which is a reusable antimicrobial pee cloth designed for people who squat when they pee. For pooping, I pack Porta wipes, which are compressed coin-sized tissues that I use instead of toilet paper, along with a roll of doggy bags, which I use to pack out any used Porta wipes. For menstruating, I pack a Diva cup. To help keep my hands clean anytime I have to poop, pee, or deal with my menstruation cup, I have both powdered soap and hand sanitizer to use that's always packed in my poop kit. Clothing layers are your best friend, especially because weather in the mountains can be so moody and change quickly. I always live by the motto, be bold, start cold, which means starting the day off not wearing all your clothing layers, even if you're cold. I promise, by the time you start hiking, you'll warm up in no time. A clothing layer system starts with base layers, which is the clothing closest to your skin that can help wick away moisture from your body. Mid layers act as insulation and can be in the form of a lightweight fleece or puffy jacket. I like to put on a mid layer whenever it's cold out and I'm stopped for a break. Outer layers are used to help give you and your hiking clothes protection from the weather, keeping you warm and dry. Outer layers can be a lightweight rain jacket and a pair of pants, a pair of Gore-Tex gaiters, and a pair of gloves. Clothing is one of those things that is super easy to overpack. When packing clothing for your backpacking trip, try to only take what you need, which is usually going to be one outfit to hike in during the day, one outfit to sleep in at night, some type of mid layer, a rain jacket, because if you don't pack a rain jacket, it will rain, guaranteed, along with extra pairs of socks and underwear. For my multi-day trips, I always pack a couple extra pairs of socks and underwear. As someone who spends a fair amount of time hiking and backpacking out on trail by myself, I recommend carrying some sort of emergency device. I always bring with me a Garmin InReach Mini 2, which is a lightweight satellite messenger that allows me to have two-way messaging with the off-trail world like friends and family at home, and even with local authorities in the event of an emergency whenever I'm out of cell and Wi-Fi service. Besides having two-way messaging capabilities with the outside world, you can also use a Garmin InReach to set up an online map for friends and family to follow along while you're out on trail alone. You'll also have the ability to check the local weather forecast for the area you're hiking in, which really comes in handy whenever the weather starts to change quickly up in the mountains. While trekking poles might not be an essential piece of gear you'd need to go solo backpacking with, there's still a piece of gear I personally never hike without. I used to think I was too young to use trekking poles. Then after using them for the first time on the first day of my PCT thru hike over 6 years ago, I haven't stopped using them since. My trekking poles now pretty much stay in my hands the entire time whenever I'm hiking on trail with a loaded backpack. Trekking poles help me to stay upright while hiking on rocky and uneven terrain, giving me more stability and balance. There's something about having an additional point of contact with the ground while wearing a loaded backpack that makes me feel so much more stable and comfortable. I also consider my trekking poles an essential piece of safety gear when I'm having to maneuver through water crossings and snowfields. My trekking poles have even acted as a line of defense between my face and a tree on a pretty gnarly fall, which ended with a snap trekking pole, but at least it wasn't my face. use. Plus, they overall make my body feel better when I'm out hiking. Trekking poles are known to help absorb the shock on the knees and ankles while going downhill, which can potentially help prevent injuries. Gotta love that. So as you're preparing for your solo backpacking adventure and packing your gear, consider bringing and using a pair of trekking poles. Your knees and face will thank me later. And finally, when it comes to the gear you need as a beginner solo backpacker, at the very least, make sure you always pack the 10 essentials. When you're backpacking alone, you can't afford to forget anything important. Always make it a priority to pack the 10 essentials with you for every trip you go on. The 10 essentials include navigation, illumination, shelter, extra clothing, extra water, extra food, sun protection, fire, knife and gear repair, and a first aid kit. For more detailed information about what each of the 10 essentials are, check this video out where I explain exactly why having the 10 essentials with you for every trip you go on is important, what each of the 10 essentials are, and give you examples of what each of the 10 essentials can be in your pack. Now, moving on to how to plan your first solo backpacking trip. Start by choosing your trail. When trying to decide where to go for your first solo backpacking trip, choose a trail that's familiar to you. This could be a trail that's close to home with low mileage, maybe even a trail that you've gone day hiking on before. By visiting a familiar trail, you'll help eliminate the fear of the unknown, making the whole idea of doing your first solo backpacking trip way less scary. I recommend choosing a popular, well-traveled trail. This way, you're more likely to run into other hikers and backpackers while you're out there by yourself. Something else I highly recommend as a solo backpacker is to always hike at least 3 to 5 miles away from any trailhead, parking lot, or road before setting up your camp for the night. This way, you'll get far enough out there to enjoy yourself, get away from city life, and feel accomplished while keeping the overall level of risk pretty low. Some of my favorite resources to use when looking for hiking trails near me are All Trails, Guide GPS, and Onyx Backcountry. Depending on where you decide to go for your first solo backpacking trip, you'll most likely need to do some research in order to figure out a few trip planning logistics like how to get to and from the trailhead, if you need to apply for a permit, learn the rules and regulations for the area you plan on visiting, and check the current conditions for the area. Some questions you'll want to ask yourself as you start the research portion of planning your trip might be, do you need a permit to camp? Are there designated tent sites, or is dispersed camping allowed? Do you need to make a reservation for a tent site, or are the sites first come, first serve? What are the requirements for food storage in the area? What are the requirements for waste management? Can you bury your poop? Will you need to use a wag bag and pack out your poop? Will you need a parking pass for your car at the trailhead? Is there a park fee required to get into the area? It also might not be a bad idea to become familiar with the 7 Leave No Trace or L&T principles, which include planning ahead and preparing, which is what we're talking about right now, traveling and camping on durable surfaces, disposing of waste properly, which ultimately means whatever you pack in, you must pack out, leaving what you find, minimizing campfire impacts, respecting wildlife like keeping your distance and being bearware, and being considerate of others. You can find more detailed information about the 7 L&T principles through the Leave No Trace website, which I'll include a link for down in the video description below. Then before leaving for your trip, make sure you check the conditions, which include current trail conditions, road conditions, not only the highway you plan on traveling on, but also the Forest Service road leading to the trailhead, and the current weather forecast for the area you'll be hiking in. It also might be worthwhile to do some research to see what kind of wildlife you can expect to see in the area while you're out on trail. Some of my favorite resources to use when researching details for any of my upcoming backpacking trips include checking with the local ranger station, national park websites, local trail organizations, and guidebooks and Facebook groups designed for the specific area I plan on hiking in. After you've chosen your trail and done your research, then it's time to start planning your trip. This means putting together an itinerary for your trip and creating routes for each day that you'll be out on trail. You can use either a paper map or a GPS navigation system app like Guide GPS or Onyx Backcountry to build a route both for your entire trip and for each individual day you'll be out on trail. A GPS navigation app tailored for hiking and backpacking trails can be a valuable trip planning tool. Not only can you use a GPS navigation app to access both online and offline maps, but you can also create a route for your trip itinerary and use these apps to find potential water sources and tent sites before ever stepping foot on trail. When creating a route for your trip and putting together your trip itinerary, you'll want to include important information like your planned route and the name of the trailhead you'll be starting from, the tent sites you plan on staying at during your trip, your start date and time for your trip, your expected end date and time, the make, model, color, and license plate number of your car and the location of where you plan on parking your car, the name of the county you'll you'll be hiking in, and information on how to contact local authorities in the area you plan on hiking in, including local county search and rescue, the local sheriff's office, and the local ranger station. Depending on your subscription level for the GPS navigation app you decide to use, and while you're still on cell and Wi-Fi service, you can download maps of any given area to use while your phone is offline, see what the elevation profile is for any given trail, and check the weather forecast for a specific area. Once offline, you can use the app's GPS functionality to show your exact location on your offline map to help you stay found while you're out on trail. As you start to prepare for your first solo backpacking trip, remember that part of your preparation is having everything you need in order to be 100% self-reliant. Planning your first solo backpacking trip isn't I'll just throw some stuff on my pack and see what happens kind of situation. As you pack your gear, focus on being over-prepared without overpacking. Keep it light. The lighter your pack, the easier your hike will be. If you don't need something, don't pack it and leave it at home. I recommend packing your gear the day before leaving for your trip instead of the morning of, just to make sure you don't leave anything you might need behind. If you need help deciding what gear you need to pack for your trip, download my free backpacking gear packing list, which I'll include a link for down in the video description below. It's not enough to have the right backpacking gear for a trip. You'll also want to know how to use all of your gear before getting out on trail. I recommend setting aside some time to practice using and becoming more familiar with your gear before your first solo backpacking trip. Try setting up your tent in your yard. Practice packing your pack with all of your gear. Set up your sleep system. Filter water using your water filter. And wear the shoes you plan on hiking in. Set up your stove and boil a pot of water. If you're using an emergency device like a Garmin InReach, make sure you've taken the time to set up the device and activate the subscription. Remember that trip itinerary we were putting together back in step 3? Before leaving for your trip, make sure to share your trip itinerary with someone at home whom you trust, who can also act as your emergency contact while you're out on trail by yourself. Let your emergency contact at home know once you've started your trip and also once you've reached the trailhead completing your trip. If you're using a GPS navigation app, don't forget to download an offline map of the area you plan on traveling in. And if you're using paper maps, double check that you have a printed map of the area and print out any trail guides you might need for your trip. Also, make sure any electronics you plan on bringing with you are fully charged before leaving for your trip. While you're out on trail alone for your first solo backpacking trip, there might be times where you wonder, why am I out here alone? Don't worry, as long as you followed each of the steps I've outlined in this video, you'll be plenty prepared for your solo adventure. Some key things to remember while you're out there and potentially questioning yourself for going out there alone. First, always have a positive mindset. You'll make it through even if you start to doubt yourself. Then when you finish, you'll feel like a total badass, I promise. Stay flexible and go with the flow. Sometimes the best laid out plans don't go as planned, and that's okay. Adjust your plans as needed as you go, and be sure to keep your emergency contact up to date on any changes made to your original trip itinerary. And most importantly, embrace the adventure and have fun. What's the point of planning a backpacking trip if you're not gonna have any fun? This is why I always bring with me a camera for all of my trips. I love documenting my solo backpacking adventures and then sharing them on my YouTube channel. You could also pack a couple distractions to entertain yourself while at camp, like a book to read, music to listen to, a game to play, or a journal to write or draw in. The more fun you have out there, the more likely you'll want to go again and start planning your next trip. Look, it's totally normal to feel like a newbie, especially if this is your first time backpacking alone. But don't let that stop you from taking the first step. Are you still looking for more advice and want an extra boost of confidence to help you get started with planning your trip this year? Are you looking for a step-by-step guide that will walk you through everything you need to know in order to plan, prepare, and go on your first solo backpacking trip safely and comfortably? Would you also like to tap into a supportive and inspiring group of women hikers and backpackers located all across the country who are looking to plan their own solo backpacking trips this year? If you said yes to any of these, then consider becoming part of my online backpacking program for women, the Confident Solo Female Backpacker System. I'll include details down in the description below on how you can join this incredible program and supportive group of women. Remember, as long as you've done the proper trip planning, are prepared with the right gear, practice good judgment, and have confidence in your own skills, solo backpacking can be a safe and incredibly rewarding and life-changing experience. Hopefully this beginner's guide to solo backpacking has given you a few good ideas on how to start planning your first solo backpacking trip. And don't forget, you got this. If you like this video and got some value out of it, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for new videos each week and hit the bell icon to get notified each time new videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy trails and keep on trucking.